Hey, English learners, welcome back to Mr. English Fluent Tutor, and welcome back to another wonderful episode. I am Anna.
And I am Abel.
Abel, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
What do you think about when you hear the words feeling lost in life?
Honestly, Anna, when I hear those words, my first thought is that something has gone very wrong, like your life is completely ruined, or you have failed at all your goals. I also think it means everyone else around you already has their path figured out perfectly, and you are the only one falling behind. That feels like a really scary and lonely place to be.
Oh, Abel, I completely understand why you would feel that way. And I think so many people share that exact same thought. But here is the truth, and this is so important to hear. Feeling lost is actually one of the most normal, most human experiences that exists. It is not a sign of failure at all. In fact, it is often a beautiful signal that you are ready to grow, ready to change direction, and ready to find a deeper and more meaningful path in your life.
Wow, Anna, that completely changes the way I was thinking about it. So feeling lost is not the end of the road, it is more like a turning point. That is such a relieving idea, honestly. I never thought about it as a signal for something better. That reframing alone already makes me feel a little lighter inside. So where do we even begin talking about this today?
That is such a great question, Abel, and I love that you already feel a little lighter. We are going to begin right at the very root of the feeling. When life feels uncertain, one of the first things people do is panic about the future. They start worrying about questions they simply cannot answer right now, like, where will I be in 5 years? Or have I already wasted too much time? That panic is incredibly draining and exhausting.
Yes, and I can completely relate to that, Anna. That kind of worrying is like a mental loop that just doesn't stop. You keep asking the same questions over and over and never get any satisfying answers. And the more you worry, the more tired and confused you feel. It's like your brain is running a race against itself and losing every single time. So how do we stop that loop from taking over?
I love that you described it as a loop, Abel, because that's exactly what it is. And here's one of my absolute favorite ways to think about this. Imagine you wake up every morning holding a fresh, full bottle of water. That bottle of water represents all of your daily emotional energy, your focus, and your mental strength. You only have so much of it each day, and once it's gone, until you rest and refill.
Okay, I love that image already, Anna. So that bottle of water is basically everything I have to give each day. My attention, my motivation, my ability to think clearly and feel good. That makes a lot of sense because some days I wake up feeling full of energy, and some days I already feel half empty before I even begin. So what do we do with this water, and how does feeling lost connect to it?
Exactly, Abel. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you spend your day in a constant cycle of worry about the future or panicking because you don't have all the answers yet, you're essentially pouring that precious water straight onto the floor. It splashes away and is completely wasted. You get nothing useful from it, and by midday, you feel completely drained and even more confused than when you started.
Oh, wow, that is such a powerful way to put it, Anna. So worrying about things I cannot control right now is literally like dropping my bottle and watching all my energy disappear into the ground. And then I have nothing left to actually do anything helpful or meaningful with my day. That is such an honest picture of what anxious overthinking actually does to a person. So how do we save our water and actually drink it properly?
Yes, saving your water means drinking it deeply and intentionally. And drinking it means putting your focus on small, meaningful actions that you can actually take today, right now, in this moment. Not actions for a perfectly imagined future that doesn't exist yet. Just one small, real thing you can do today. Maybe it's writing down how you feel in a notebook. Maybe it's going for a 10-minute walk outside. Maybe it's practicing your English right now.
That makes so much sense, Anna. And it's interesting because those examples you gave, the notebook, the walk, the English practice, they all feel so manageable. They're not big, dramatic solutions. They're just tiny, honest steps. And when you take a tiny, honest step, you actually feel a little better. You feel like you did something real with your day, which is so much more satisfying than just spinning in circles of worry.
Perfectly said, Abel. And that feeling of doing something real is exactly what starts to lift the fog of confusion. Now I want to introduce another beautiful way of thinking about this. Picture yourself sitting in a quiet room. In that room, there are two windows on opposite walls. One window is completely covered with thick gray clouds. When you stare through that cloudy window, everything looks dark, heavy, and hopeless.
Oh, yes, I know that cloudy window very well, Anna. That's the window I tend to look through when I feel confused or uncertain. Everything through that window looks like a problem. It feels like the darkness is permanent, and the confusion will never lift. You start to believe you will always feel this way. That lost feeling will just be your life from now on. And the longer you stare, the more trapped you feel.
Yes, and that's exactly the danger of staring through only one window, Abel. But here's the wonderful part. Right on the other wall of that same room, there's a second window. And through that window, you can see a beautiful green garden. The sun is coming through softly, and things are growing. That window represents a shift in perspective. It shows you that not knowing your next step is completely okay, and that new opportunities are already waiting outside.
I love that so much, Anna. So the room doesn't change, the situation doesn't magically become perfect, but the window you choose to look through changes everything about how you feel and what you believe is possible. And I think that's such a gentle but important reminder. You always have a choice about which direction you turn your attention, even on a really difficult and confusing day.
Beautifully put, Abel. And speaking of perspective, let me pause here for just a moment, because that word, perspective, is one of our key vocabulary words today. Perspective means the particular way you see or understand something based on your position or experience. It's your personal point of view. And as we just discussed, shifting your perspective is not about pretending your problems don't exist. It's about choosing a more open and helpful angle to look from.
Yes, and a great example of perspective in a daily life sentence would be something like this. After talking with a close friend, I gained a new perspective on my situation and felt much more hopeful than before. That sentence really shows how perspective is not fixed. It can change when you get new information, a kind conversation, or even just a quiet walk outside to clear your head. Perspective is always movable.
Exactly, Abel, and I love that sentence. Now, let us keep moving forward together because there is so much more we want to share today. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they feel lost is thinking they need to have the entire path planned out perfectly before they can take even one step. They feel like they need to see the whole mountain from bottom to top before they are allowed to begin climbing.
Oh, yes, Anna, and that kind of thinking is completely paralyzing. If you wait until you can see every single step on the mountain, you will be waiting forever. Life simply does not work that way. The path reveals itself gradually, one step at a time as you actually move forward. And I think that is one of the hardest lessons to learn, especially when you are someone who likes to feel prepared and in control.
That is so true, Abel. And here's a really helpful way to think about this. Imagine crossing a wide river. You do not need a perfectly built bridge to get across. You just need stepping stones. And those stepping stones are small, focused actions you can take in short, manageable amounts of time. Think of them as 10-minute coins of energy. Small, valuable, and completely within your reach right now.
Oh, wow. I love the idea of 10-minute coins, Anna. So instead of feeling crushed by this enormous and overwhelming life question, I just find one 10-minute coin and I spend it wisely. Maybe I spend it writing 3 sentences about how I'm feeling. Maybe I spend it looking up one new career idea just out of curiosity. Maybe I spend it here, listening to this podcast and learning something new about myself.
Exactly, Abel. And each of those 10-minute coins is a stepping stone. When you collect enough of them over days and weeks, you look back and realize you have actually crossed a large part of the river already. You made progress without even realizing how much you were moving. That is the quiet, steady magic of small, consistent action. It does not look dramatic, but it is incredibly powerful and deeply effective over time.
That is genuinely inspiring, Anna. And it connects to something I know we want to talk about, which is that word navigation. Because when you're crossing a river on stepping stones, you are navigating. You are making small, moment-by-moment decisions about where to place your foot next. You're not flying over the water. You are carefully, thoughtfully moving through it, one stone at a time.
Yes, Abel. And navigation is one of our key vocabulary words for today. Navigation means the process of planning and following a route to get from one place to another. In our context today, it means finding your way through an uncertain or confusing period in your life. Navigation does not mean having a perfect map. It means paying attention, making small choices, and adjusting your direction as you go.
And a natural daily life example of navigation in a sentence could be something like this. Learning to navigate a new city can feel confusing at first, but after a few days, you start to recognize the streets and feel more comfortable. And I think that is such a perfect parallel to life. You feel completely lost in a new place, but the more you walk around and explore, the more familiar and manageable it becomes. Navigation takes practice.
I love that example, Abel. And the idea of practicing navigation brings me to our next really important point. So many people, when they feel lost, immediately try to make massive, overwhelming, incredibly complicated plans for their entire future in one afternoon. And then they feel even more anxious and confused, because of course it is impossible to do that.
Yes, and that kind of planning spiral is exhausting, Anna. You write down all these enormous goals, and then you look at the list and feel completely crushed by how far away everything seems. It's like trying to cut a thick rope with a dull and broken blade. You just hack away at it without making any clean progress. The effort is huge, but the results feel very small and discouraging.
That is such a vivid image, Abel, and it actually leads perfectly into our next analogy. Think about a clean, sharp kitchen knife. When you use a knife that is properly sharpened, you don't need to use a lot of force. One smooth, precise cut does exactly what you need. And that's what we want to do with our thinking when life feels overwhelming. We want to cut cleanly and simply, not frantically hack at everything.
So what does cutting cleanly actually look like in real daily life, Anna? I think that is the part I want to understand better. Because so much of the feeling of being lost actually comes from chasing other people's versions of what a good life looks like. When you strip all of that away with your clean, sharp knife, what is left is actually much clearer and much quieter and much more honest.
Perfectly expressed, Abel. And that quiet honesty is so connected to our next vocabulary word, which is clarity. Clarity means the quality of being clear, easy to understand or easy to see. When you talk about inner clarity, it means having a clear sense of what matters to you, what you want, and what feels right in your life. Clarity is not the same as having all the answers. It is just knowing your next honest step.
Yes, and an example of clarity in a sentence from real daily life would be something like this. After a few weeks of journaling every morning, I finally felt a sense of clarity about the kind of work I actually wanted to do. And that is so true for me personally. When I take time to slow down and write things out, the noise quiets down and something clear and simple starts to emerge from underneath all the confusion.
That is a wonderful sentence, Abel, and I love that you mentioned journaling because slowing down is such a central theme in everything we are talking about today. And that brings me to something I really want to address. So many people feel that they need to figure everything out quickly. They feel embarrassed that they have not resolved their confusion already. They feel like there is a deadline they are missing.
Yes, Anna, and I think that feeling of being on a timeline is one of the most stressful parts of feeling lost. You compare yourself to people you see online who seem to have everything sorted out perfectly. They have the career, the relationship, the apartment, the travel photos, and the confidence. And you are sitting there feeling like you are the only one who has not figured out the instructions yet.
Oh, Abel, that comparison trap is so real and so common. But here's a truth I want every listener to hold on to today. There is no invisible teacher hiding behind your sofa with a clipboard and a red pen, grading your life and marking it as a pass or a fail. Life is not a strict exam with a set schedule. There is no universal timetable that says you must have your purpose clearly defined by a certain age.
Oh, wow, Anna. The image of a teacher hiding behind the sofa is so funny, but also so comforting, because that is genuinely how the pressure of comparison feels, like someone is watching and judging every choice you make. But when you actually think about it logically, there is nobody there. The only person putting that kind of pressure on you is the voice inside your own head, and that voice can be challenged and changed.
Exactly, Abel. And challenging that inner voice is so important. And that leads us to one of my absolute favorite tools for doing exactly that. It's just one single small word, and that word is yet. Such a tiny word, but honestly, it carries so much hope and possibility inside it. The word yet completely transforms the way a sentence feels and what it does to your mindset.
Okay, Anna, I have.
Perfectly expressed, Abel. And that quiet honesty is so connected to our next vocabulary word, which is clarity. Clarity means the quality of being clear, easy to understand, or easy to see. When you talk about inner clarity, it means having a clear sense of what matters to you, what you want, and what feels right in your life. Clarity is not the same as having all the answers. It is just knowing your next honest step.
Yes, and an example of clarity in a sentence from real daily life would be something like this. After a few weeks of journaling every morning, I finally felt a sense of clarity about the kind of work I actually wanted to do. And that is so true for me personally. When I take time to slow down and write things out, the noise quiets down and something clear and simple starts to emerge from underneath all the confusion.
That is a wonderful sentence, Abel, and I love that you mentioned journaling because slowing down is such a central theme in everything we are talking about today. And that brings me to something I really want to address. So many people feel that they need to figure everything out quickly. They feel embarrassed that they have not resolved their confusion already. They feel like there is a deadline they are missing.
Yes, Anna, and I think that feeling of being on a timeline is one of the most stressful parts of feeling lost. You compare yourself to people you see online who seem to have everything sorted out perfectly. They have the career, the relationship, the apartment, the travel photos, and the confidence. And you are sitting there feeling like you are the only one who has not figured out the instructions yet.
Oh, Abel, that comparison trap is so real and so common. But here's a truth I want every listener to hold on to today. There is no invisible teacher hiding behind your sofa with a clipboard and a red pen, grading your life and marking it as a pass or a fail. Life is not a strict exam with a set schedule. There is no universal timetable that says you must have your purpose clearly defined by a certain age.
Oh, wow, Anna. The image of a teacher hiding behind the sofa is so funny, but also so comforting, because that is genuinely how the pressure of comparison feels, like someone is watching and judging every choice you make. But when you actually think about it logically, there is nobody there. The only person putting that kind of pressure on you is the voice inside your own head, and that voice can be challenged and changed.
Exactly, Abel. And challenging that inner voice is so important. And that leads us to one of my absolute favorite tools for doing exactly that. It's just one single small word, and that word is yet. Such a tiny word, but honestly, it carries so much hope and possibility inside it. The word yet completely transforms the way a sentence feels and what it does to your mindset.
Okay, Anna, I have to be honest with you. I know exactly what my inner voice sounds like when I feel lost. It says things like, I have no clear direction. I do not know what I'm meant to do. I will never figure this out. Those sentences feel so heavy and so final when I say them to myself. They feel like closed doors with no handle on either side, just completely sealed shut.
Yes, Abel, and I hear you so clearly. Now, let's take those exact sentences and simply add the word yet to the end of each one. I have no clear direction yet. I do not know what I am meant to do yet. I will never figure this out yet. Do you feel the difference? It's subtle, but it's incredibly powerful. It changes a closed, finished statement into an open, ongoing, exploratory journey.
Oh, wow, Anna, that actually gives me chills a little bit, because the sentence goes from feeling like a final verdict to feeling like a story that is still being written. I have no clear direction yet suggests that direction is coming, that it's on its way, that the story is not over, that one tiny word turns a wall into a door. And that is just remarkable when you think about how simple it is.
I love that, Abel. A wall into a door. That's a perfect way to describe it. And this connects so beautifully to our next vocabulary word, which is disorientation. Disorientation means the feeling of losing your sense of direction, position, or purpose. It's that dizzy, unsettled feeling you get when you don't know where you are or where you're going. It's completely normal, and importantly, it's always temporary.
Yes, and disorientation in a daily life sentence sounds like this. After leaving a job I had done for many years, I felt a deep sense of disorientation and wasn't sure what my next chapter would look like. And I think so many people can relate to that. Big life transitions, whether it's finishing school, leaving a relationship, moving to a new city, or losing a job, all of them can trigger that feeling of disorientation very powerfully.
Beautifully said, Abel. And those big transitions are exactly when the feeling of being lost tends to arrive most strongly. And here's what I want everyone to remember. Disorientation during a transition is not a sign that the transition was wrong. It's simply the natural feeling of being between two chapters of your life. You have closed one page, and the next has not fully revealed itself to you yet. And that in-between space can feel very uncomfortable.
Yes, and that in-between space is where so many people panic and try to rush back to something familiar, even if the familiar thing was not making them happy anymore, just because it was known and predictable. The discomfort of the unknown feels worse than the discomfort of staying stuck. And I think understanding that pattern in yourself is actually a really important part of working through the feeling of being lost.
You are absolutely right about that, Abel, and recognizing those patterns is a form of self-navigation. Now, I want to bring in another really beautiful idea, and it involves thinking about direction from a completely different angle. You know how sometimes you're walking with a friend, and that friend walks slower than you do. Maybe you keep getting ahead of them and having to stop and wait.
Oh, yes, Anna, I know exactly that feeling. You're walking and chatting, and then you realize you are 3 steps ahead and your friend is still back there taking their time. And sometimes it can feel a little frustrating if you're in a hurry. But honestly, when you're not in a rush, walking slowly with a good friend is actually one of the most pleasant and peaceful things you can do on a quiet afternoon.
Exactly, Abel. And I want you to think of your sense of true purpose and inner direction as that slow friend. Clarity about what you really want and what your life is truly about doesn't arrive in a sudden, dramatic lightning bolt moment for most people. It arrives slowly, gently, catching up to you quietly as you walk at a calmer pace. The more you rush and force it, the further behind it seems to fall.
Oh, Anna, that analogy is so comforting and so true. When you are frantically running and panicking, your slow friend can't keep up. But when you intentionally slow down, take a deep breath and just keep walking gently forward, your slow friend catches up beside you, and you feel that quiet, peaceful sense of knowing. I've experienced moments like that, and they are genuinely some of the most meaningful moments of my life.
Yes, and those quiet moments of knowing are worth protecting and creating space for. And one of the most practical ways to slow down and create that space is to pay attention to your milestones. And that actually brings us to our next vocabulary word for today, which is milestone. A milestone is a significant event or achievement that marks an important stage of progress along a journey or a path.
Yes, and a great example of milestone in a daily life sentence would be something like this. Finishing my first online course felt like a real milestone, even though I still had so much more to learn ahead of me. And I think that is so important. A milestone does not have to be a massive life achievement. It can be something small but genuinely meaningful to you personally, and it still absolutely deserves to be recognized and celebrated.
I completely agree, Abel, and celebrating your small milestones is one of the most powerful things you can do when you feel lost. It reminds your brain and your heart that you are actually moving, even when the bigger picture still feels unclear and uncertain. Every 10-minute coin you spend, every stepping stone you cross, every small action you take, those are all real milestones, and they deserve your acknowledgement and your kindness.
And I think that self-kindness piece is so important to name directly, Anna, because when people feel lost, there is often a lot of internal criticism happening too. You feel lost, and then you also feel bad about feeling lost, and then you feel bad about feeling bad. It becomes this layered pile of self-judgment that just makes everything heavier and more difficult to move through. Self-kindness breaks that cycle.
Self-kindness absolutely breaks that cycle, Abel, and you named it perfectly. And this brings us to our last core vocabulary word for today, which is uncertainty. Uncertainty means the state of not knowing what will happen next, or not having a clear or definite answer or outcome. Uncertainty is something every single human being lives with every single day, even people who appear to have everything figured out on the surface.
Yes, and uncertainty in a real daily life sentence sounds like this. The uncertainty of not knowing which direction to take after graduation was overwhelming at first, but eventually I learned to sit with it more comfortably. And that phrase, learn to sit with it, is so important. It suggests a gradual process of becoming more comfortable with not knowing, rather than desperately trying to eliminate the uncertainty all at once.
Beautifully said, Abel. Sitting with uncertainty is a skill, and like all skills, it takes practice. You practice it by focusing on your water bottle. You practice it by choosing the green garden window instead of the gray cloud window. You practice it by spending your 10-minute coins on real small actions. You practice it by adding the word yet to your heavy thoughts and watching them lighten up immediately.
Yes, and you practice it by putting down the heavy planner with the impossible 10-year blueprint and picking up the clean, sharp knife instead. Cutting away the noise, the external comparisons, and the invisible teacher's clipboard. Asking yourself just one simple, honest question each day. What is one small, true thing I can do or feel right now? That question is more powerful than any overwhelming master plan.
Perfectly said, Abel, and I love how naturally you brought all of those ideas together. And I think it is also worth saying clearly that the feeling of being lost is often the beginning of something really exciting, even though it does not feel that way when you're in the middle of it. Some of the most important and meaningful chapters of people's lives were launched directly from a moment of confusion and deep uncertainty.
Yes, Anna, and I think that is such a hopeful and honest truth to sit with. The feeling of being lost is not your final destination. It's a transit point. It's the hallway between two rooms, one room you have already lived in and one room you have not yet opened the door to. And standing in that hallway can feel uncomfortable and disorienting, but the next door is absolutely real and waiting for you.
The hallway between two rooms, Abel, I love that image so much. And let us also gently remind everyone listening right now that they do not have to go through that hallway completely alone. Talking with a friend, listening to a podcast like this one, writing in a journal, or simply naming your feelings honestly to yourself. All of these are forms of companionship and support that can make the hallway feel less dark and more navigable.
Absolutely, Anna. And I think that's one of the reasons a podcast like this is so valuable, not just for the English practice, although that's wonderful and important too, but because hearing someone else talk about these universal human experiences makes you feel less alone in your own. When Anna says something and I respond and we connect over it, every listener who relates to that exchange feels a little bit of that connection too.
That is so beautifully said, Abel, and it means the world to hear you put it that way. Language learning and personal growth really do walk hand in hand. Every new word you learn about your inner experience gives you a new tool to understand and express yourself more fully. And every honest reflection you do in English makes both your fluency and your self-awareness grow at the same time, together.
Yes, and that's something I want to say directly to every single person listening to us right now. You chose to press play on this episode today, and that small choice was a 10-minute coin. You're investing in yourself right now, in this moment. That's a milestone. That's you navigating your way forward. That's you looking through the green garden window and choosing growth over stagnation.
I love that so much, Abel. And I think we are at a beautiful natural moment now to bring all of our wonderful ideas together into a clear and satisfying summary. Abel, would you like to walk our listeners through everything we covered today and remind them of all the beautiful tools and ideas we explored together in this episode?
Absolutely, Anna. I would love to do that. So today we learned that feeling lost in life is not a sign that your life is ruined or that you have failed in some fundamental way. It is a completely normal and deeply human experience that signals you are ready to grow and ready to find a more meaningful direction for your journey. The feeling of being lost is not a destination. It is a transit point between chapters.
Beautifully started, Abel. Please keep going.
Thank you, Anna. We talked about protecting our daily bottle of emotional water by choosing small, focused, real actions over endless, anxious worrying about the future. We talked about the room with two windows and how choosing to look through the green garden window, shifting our perspective, changes everything about how we feel and what we believe is possible for our lives, even when our situation has not changed yet.
Yes, every single one of those ideas is so important, and you are doing such a wonderful job bringing them all back together, Abel.
Thank you so much, Anna. We also talked about stepping stones and 10-minute coins of focused daily action, and how you do not need to see the entire mountain path to begin moving forward. We talked about using the clean, sharp knife to cut away external noise and social comparison, and to return to one simple, honest question each day. What is one small and true thing that feels meaningful to me right now?
And do not forget the magic of that tiny but powerful word, Abel.
Yes, of course, the word yet. That beautiful, simple three-letter word that turns a closed, heavy, finished sentence into an open, hopeful, ongoing journey. I do not know my direction yet. I have not found my purpose yet. Those sentences breathe with possibility. And we reminded ourselves that there is no invisible teacher behind the sofa scoring our life choices. There is no universal timetable we are late for.
Yes, and what about our slow friend? I think that one is so special, and I want to make sure everyone carries it with them.
Oh yes, the slow friend. True clarity and deep inner purpose do not arrive in a dramatic lightning flash. They arrive slowly and quietly, like a gentle friend on a peaceful afternoon walk. The more you intentionally slow down, breathe, and take small, consistent steps forward, the more easily that slow friend of clarity catches up to walk beside you. Rushing and forcing it only makes it fall further behind.
That is such a wonderful summary, Abel. And our vocabulary words today were so rich and full of meaning. We covered uncertainty, direction, perspective, disorientation, clarity, milestone, and navigation. Each one of those words gives you a new and more precise way to understand and describe your inner experience. And the more precisely you can name something, the more power you have to work with it and through it.
Exactly, Anna. And I want to say one final thing to close this summary. Being lost is not weakness. Confusion is not failure. Uncertainty is not the enemy. They are all simply part of the honest and beautifully imperfect journey of being a living, growing, feeling human being who is brave enough to keep showing up for their own life every single day, even on the hard and foggy ones.
Abel, that was absolutely perfect, and I could not have said it better myself. And now, English learners, we have a little something we always love to do at the end of each episode. We want to hear from you. We want to know about your real life and your real feelings and your real experiences. So here's your question for today.
Oh yes, Anna, I love our listener question moments. I always look forward to reading the responses.
Right, so English learners, we want you to drop a comment below this video and tell us one small thing that helps you feel grounded and steady when life feels uncertain or overwhelming. It could be something as simple as making a cup of tea, going for a short walk, writing in a journal, calling a friend, or even just sitting quietly for a few minutes and breathing. Whatever it is, we want to hear it.
Yes, and please know that your comment might be exactly what another listener needs to read today. Your experience and your honest small truth could be the stepping stone that helps someone else cross their river. So don't hold back. Share freely and generously because this community is a warm and supportive and wonderful place to be honest and real.
Beautifully said, Abel. And English learners, we are so grateful that you chose to spend this time with us today. You showed up, you listened, you learned, and you reflected. That's real growth happening right now in real time. Every episode you listen to, every new word you add to your vocabulary, every moment of honest self-reflection you allow yourself, all of it is moving you forward.
Yes, Anna, and remember, you are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply in your own unique chapter, navigating your own unique path, one small stepping stone at a time, and that is more than enough. In fact, that's exactly right where you need to be today. Keep drinking your water wisely, keep looking through the green garden window, and keep adding yet to the heavy thoughts.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep speaking with confidence and ease. This is Anna.
And this is Abel, and you have been listening to the Mr. English Fluent Tutor Podcast. Bye-bye. Take care.
And if you enjoyed this episode and want to keep your language and personal growth moving forward smoothly, click the next video waiting for you right now. We'll see you there.